Hi, I'm Dr. DeFabio, and welcome to the Natural Way to Better Health and Wellness. Today we have a return guest, Dr. David Seaman. We've had him on before with foods that stop the pain, with the anti-inflammatory diet. He's a wealth of information, and today we're going to be talking about weight management. That's right, weight management, and of course with Dr. Seaman, that involves inflammation. So learn how you can manage your weight naturally with this show. It's going to be a great one. Stay tuned. Well, Dave, thanks for coming out again today. I know you got another seminar here in New Jersey. We appreciate your time.
Nice to be here.
You know, the last time you came up, we did this the day that Sandy rolled in.
It was the morning, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And you were running out to the airport. So did you bring a little weather with you this time or what?
It got nice.
Yeah.
It warmed up a little bit here this time.
Yeah, this time it did. Yeah. You let the snow already came, so we're not getting it tonight, are we?
I was impressed. I was out with my shirt like this, and it was nice.
There you go.
So hopefully it won't be too bad for you guys tomorrow. I'm leaving though tomorrow, so I'm not sure.
You're not sure you're going to leave us with more storms, maybe?
I don't want to. You know.
Well, listen, we can handle it, Dave.
I like to have my home state safe and healthy and not too battered up.
No, we appreciate that. Looking out for us. So listen, today you're going to be talking about weight management.
Yes, sir.
You know, is it just calories in, calories out? Is that the bottom line?
You know, people will argue that it's not that case, and to a degree it isn't. And really a good movie to watch for the average person or even for doctors is a movie called Fathead, where the guy says that supersize me is wrong. You can eat at fast food restaurants and lose weight.
Okay.
So he goes to McDonald's mostly.
All right.
He eats about 2,000 calories per day, exercises, just walks a little bit more, but he only eats 100 grams worth of carbohydrate per day, so like 400 calories.
All right.
So when you go lower carb, you tend to burn off more fat. Higher carb tends to create a scenario where you burn off less calories.
Right.
I mean, it's not a perfectly defined scenario, but there's strong evidence pointing in that direction. So technically, yeah, calories in, calories out probably is not accurate, but generally it's true. So if you or I want to lose weight, we figure out what our basal rate would be, and then we would try to drop it down by about 500 calories.
A day or a week? Or?
Well, it just depends. Let's just say someone requires 2,500 calories to maintain their weight. They should go to 2,000 calories per day and move around more.
Got it.
Walk if they want. Do some type of activity where they get their heart rate going. And then, you know, the foods that they should focus on should be foods that fill them up, like vegetation. Lots of vegetation. Like, for example, 3 heads of romaine lettuce. The average person listening has never done that before. That's too much food. Well, if you feel so full, then you won't eat anymore.
Yeah.
And guess how many calories? Because
175?
About 300 calories.
About 300, okay.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit less, and 3 heads of romaine lettuce, and you get a ton of potassium, which is very, very important.
Sure.
And you get lots of fiber, which is very, very important. A lot of people are constipated because of the lack of fiber. So just in 3 heads of romaine lettuce, it's only 300 calories, and it's about 30 grams of fiber practically.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and everybody usually has weight problems, usually has digestive issues. A lot of those people are constipated,
well,
aren't
because
they?
they're living on sugar and flour.
Well, let's go back to what you're saying, feeling full. Don't the breads, don't the pastas just fill you right up? Don't they really give you that sense of fullness?
Well, I suppose so, but then after because what happens after the more refined carbohydrates get into the small intestine, they're quickly absorbed, which is why you're hungry again shortly thereafter, typically. Because they don't really fill you appropriately. So, no, they don't fill you up. I mean, it would be nice if they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to be in the cake diet. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So, we do have to look at calories, but that proportion of carbohydrates to fats to proteins, as we're finding out with more research and biochemistry of the body, that key is really an issue, isn't it?
You want to be below 100 grams, like the fathead guy did it, but if you really want to get into ketosis, where you're really burning fats more, you want to get down to about 50 grams.
That's Atkins, basically high protein.
I don't like saying Atkins only because people envision just drinking bacon grease.
Yeah, okay.
There's actually a wonderful research diet. It's basically sort of like my anti-inflammatory deflame diet, just more hardcore, where there's no minimal fruit to no fruit, no potatoes, nothing at all. So it's just basically fish, meat, chicken, some cheese, olive oil, red wine, and tons of vegetation. So there's less than 50 grams of carbohydrate in that, and within 12 weeks, patients with metabolic syndrome, done,
Wow.
gone.
So metabolic syndrome, obesity,
All go together.
hypertension, hypercholesteremia.
They all go
Blood
together.
sugar
Yeah,
going
they
up.
all just they're in the same family. When you flame up with sugar and flour and the refined oils, and the weight gets on, all those conditions appear because of this part of the flaming process.
Got it. Got it. So now, let's just step back a little bit. You said 100 grams. We're talking about weight management. Would that be for somebody taking 100 grams of carbohydrates on an everyday basis as well, or is that just a?
That's forever.
That's forever.
It's a life. I mean, they called that diet the Spanish ketogenic Mediterranean diet,
Okay.
and they use it for the cardiovascular markers. They
All
use it for metabolic syndrome patients, and they actually eliminated non-alcoholic fatty liver in about 20% of the subjects
Really?
within 12 weeks. Gone.
Non-alcoholic. That's a huge problem.
Huge.
That's a huge issue.
Because metabolic syndrome affects about 25 to 40% of our adult population.
Wow.
And of that population, a lot of them get fatty liver.
Yeah. No, I know.
So it's a big problem. Yeah.
So now you talked a little bit about inflammation. Systemic inflammation, is that another driver of weight gain?
Yeah, it is it's kind of interesting. Systemic inflammation drives the weight gain, and then the weight gain creates more systemic inflammation, which furthers more weight gain.
So it's a positive feedback mechanism.
Yeah. So the way it works basically from the get-go would be, if you eat sugar, like let's just say you and I go do a drive-by self-shooting at our favorite fast food restaurant.
Yeah, people can watch our first video about that.
Yeah, and it was actually studied that they used an egg McMuffin, a sausage McMuffin, and a hash brown patty, 900 calories.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and in young people, within an hour or so after they ate, blood test, and they measured increased inflammation in young 25-year-olds who were lean. So the second that you eat basically fat and carbohydrate, even with a little bit of protein, but no vegetation, the flame goes on.
Really?
Yeah. Even if you just drank pure heavy cream, the flame goes on. You got to have vegetation.
Why is that? What does the vegetation do? Is it just because of the fiber? Is it the minerals? What's the deal?
Phytonutrients, I think, create an anti-inflammatory function.
All right.
Because what happens is if you just do pure sugar, you get a blood sugar surge. And it will rush into skeletal muscle, but other cells as well.
Okay.
When it goes into the other cells, like the immune cells. So imagine sugar feeding the immune cells. The immune cells respond by releasing inflammatory chemicals when exposed to the sugar. So when that happens, it happens over time. We're gaining more weight. The immune cells keep doing this, and now we all of a sudden have excess body fat on us. And with the excess body fat, now the immune cells are actually attracted to that excess body fat, as if there's a low-grade type of infection almost.
Got it, and it just kind of feeds itself.
It feeds on itself. So we get the blood sugar surge after sugar that creates immediate inflammation. And then if you just have sugar, flour, and fat with no vegetation whatsoever, you also get a translocation, a movement of the cell wall around bacteria that can be measured in circulation. It's called bacterial endotoxin. That happens along with the sugar flame after you eat within an hour.
So that bacterial endotoxin, that means that your body is responding to the surface of the bacteria against other tissues in the body, like an autoimmune reaction?
No, that wouldn't be autoimmune. That would be like a very, very low-grade infection.
Just a low-grade infection, just kind of feeding over itself.
Well, what happens is that the sugar, the flour, and the fat without any vegetation, it allows for the bacterial cell wall component to be absorbed. Once it hits systemic circulation, the immune cells react to it and dump their inflammatory chemistry. So if you eat no vegetation, you get a double whammy. You get the sugar flame going, and you get the endotoxin flame going. That could be in you or I when we first met in chiropractic college, right?
Yeah.
So now, but once you start to gain weight, the situation gets worse.
All right, boy, a lot of information, Dave. It's always great, but previous show, foods that stop the pain. People can look into that to get a lot of how inflammation and pain are related, which is one of the topics we want to talk about next. How pain and inflammation and weight gain are tied together.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Dr. David Seaman's my guest. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio, and we'll be right back.
Millions of Americans suffer from chronic pain throughout their body, caused by imbalances and instabilities in their feet. But today, individually designed stabilizing orthotics are helping people live active, pain-free lives. Stabilizing orthotics are designed for your body based on a scan of your feet. Unlike the one-size-fits-all orthotics that don't address your specific needs, your stabilizing orthotics can provide more stability and support. The difference in these orthotics compared to over-the-counter is supporting the three-arched structure called the plantar vault. This structure provides momentum for movement. Your arches permit springy flexibility to accommodate changes in terrain. If one arch in your foot is compromised, or you have flat feet, flexibility will diminish and can lead to considerable pain in your ankles, knees, hips, and back. Stabilizing orthotics give you the stable foundation you need to help reduce unnecessary stress and strain on your joints. Your plantar vault also provides strength to support the weight of your entire body. Once your feet are properly supported, a leveling effect will occur to your ankles, knees, and hips, and put your life in balance.
You know, Dave, a lot of great information, and it's always fun talking to you, and you get me thinking. We're talking about inflammation. Inflammation drives weight gain. Obesity, fat, drives more weight gain, and then we start eating more, but it must impact other parts of the body. I know we know inflammation gives you pain, but where else does it manifest itself when you get these inflammatory reactions?
Well, it depends upon, I think it depends upon your genetic makeup. If you're wired to get Alzheimer's, and you don't know about it, you flame up, you may end up with Alzheimer's. So the idea is not to become inflamed, because if you do become inflamed, then you're going to find out what your unfortunate situation might be.
Your genetic expression for disease.
So you could look at anything from rheumatoid arthritis, because it takes a long time for RA and the other autoimmune diseases to express themselves, third, fourth, fifth decade, and then they occur. So you have to work on, you have to pursue inflammation for years, and then it expresses itself.
And so you have to pursue anti-inflammation as
so
well.
Cancer is the outcome of chronic inflammation. Heart attacks, hypertension, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease.
So we got to get everybody down to that 100 grams of carbohydrate or less.
Yeah, you really want to reduce the carbohydrate intake, and you want to increase vegetation intake.
What about the brain? How does it impact your brain?
Well, you have Alzheimer's disease would be an example, Parkinson's disease. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, if you take out the chemistry of those diseases, is very similar to the chemistry of joint pain and the chemistry of osteoarthritis.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You run that by me again.
Okay.
In Parkinson's, you need L-DOPA. We give you L-DOPA and cimetamine, and you're good to go.
Right.
Well, and now you're telling me it's like the inflammation of my joints.
Because if you look at the regions of the brain that are involved in Parkinson's disease, and you go in and you look at, say, CSF, or you go in and you look at the substantia nigra or the caudate nucleus, parts of the brain, and you actually identify the chemistry that's there, you'll find increases in cytokines. You'll find increases in prostaglandins. And those are the same things,
markers.
the markers of inflammation. And if you go into an arthritic joint and pull out the chemistry, what do you find? Prostaglandins and cytokines.
Got it.
You go into the cerebrospinal fluid of a patient who has Alzheimer's disease, what do you find there? Same general inflammatory markers.
Got it.
So if you flame up and you get osteoarthritis, you're kind of lucky, because at least you'll just hurt, you won't lose your mind, or you won't die young. It depends upon the flavor, the color of your flame once you start the whole flaming process. But the other part of the brain, though, that's kind of interesting is, and this is what it makes it, I think, very difficult for a lot of people to lose weight, is that once they're on the dietary inflammation train, whoop, whoop, next stop they're going, right? They stop off, they eat more stuff, they start to get a little bit heavier.
Central obesity?
Right, central obesity, the fat cells start to enlarge, they start to release chemicals that invite in immune cells.
That leptin stuff? I read about leptin.
Well, leptin is going to be released by adipocytes, the fat cells, to basically tell the brain that you're full.
Got it.
So what happens when you're moving into weight gain, where you actually start to feel hungry in your mind, even though your gut feels full, is because leptin is no longer able to tell your hypothalamus, the sensing part of your brain for hunger, to turn off.
Wow.
So your hypothalamus becomes both leptin and insulin resistant. And now they can be voraciously hungry after they've just gorged themselves and they feel full, like they can't even eat anymore, but they're still hungry. Imagine now, you don't have that problem. When you're full, you're full.
That's it.
If you want to overeat, you've got to force yourself, because I'll push past it. You're not hungry anymore.
Exactly.
Imagine being starving after you've just stuffed yourself.
And that's because your body just doesn't sense that hormone that's supposed to shut down your appetite.
Your hypothalamus is not responding to the anti-hunger signals of leptin and insulin.
And those, again, are inflammation markers.
Well, yeah, hyperinsulinemia.
Or a result of inflammation.
Exactly, yeah. Too much insulin, too much leptin, in that case, they would be characterized as inflammation markers, exactly.
Wow. What other types of inflammation markers, what might we find on routine blood testing?
C-reactive protein is really good. Hemoglobin A1C is good. But you have to have a kind of a collection of the markers. If you just have one, it may not necessarily be an issue. So just simple measurements, like waistline measurements. Like once a guy goes over, well, the cutoff is 40 inches for a guy, and that's around the belly button, not around where the pants are.
Where we wear them now.
Yeah, it's at the belly button. That's where you want to do the measurement. Guys need to be well below 40, but 40 is the cutoff for metabolic syndrome. So if you have a waistline of 40 inches, you're going to have increased inflammatory markers rolling about.
It's given, so it's really easy.
Yeah, it's very, very
really
simple.
Easy.
Waist-hip ratio. Body mass index is very good for a guy like me or you because we're thin, but for some of the guys who are in there who are big pumped up guys, it wouldn't work for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're going to say, well, BMI isn't accurate, but that's for them.
Exactly.
The average American is overweight or obese, and you ask the average American who's overweight or obese, what's your ideal weight? And they'll give you a number, and you plug in their height and their weight, and lo and behold, their BMI is normal.
Yeah.
So BMI is not accurate if you're pumped up.
Got it.
BMI is very accurate if your waist is bigger than your hips.
Yeah, which is the average American.
Average
American.
American.
They use it so easy.
Exactly.
So we also want to touch a little bit about inflammation drives joint and muscle pain. You actually teach that at the chiropractic school, the relationship between joint pain, muscle pain, inflammation. Is it simply those cytokines and going back to lots of vegetation and meat?
It is the same thing. And those markers of inflammation we were talking about before, the blood sugar and CRP and the waist measurements, those measurements that indicate that you have high body mass index and that you would therefore be inflamed, when the body mass index goes up, your incidence of aches and pains, wide body go up. You're going to have symptoms that are fibromyalgia-like just because you have metabolic syndrome and excess weight gain. In fact, if you're overweight, you're more likely to get fibromyalgia.
Yeah, how about that?
Because you're systemically inflamed. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So when the body mass index goes up, the chance is, it's not a one-to-one correlation, but the odds start to increase such that as your body mass index goes up, your chance for local pains and widespread pains go up. In fact, tendinopathies are
athletic population.
Yes. However, imagine if you're a non-athletic individual and you're basically, you're sort of couch potato, and this is your exercise. You're drinking beer and doing potato chips, and that's what you do. And your body mass index is going up, and you decide to just for the heck of it go get your patella tendon ultrasound. It turns out that when the BMI, when the waistline goes above 33 inches, not even 40 yet, there's an increased prevalence of asymptomatic, abnormal, pathological changes in tendons without any trauma at all. And then they decide to go exercise. And they already have patella tendinopathy, that they've got patella tendon pathology.
That's already there.
That's there,
just
and then they exercise,
and then bingo
comes out. And you think it was done by exercise, when in fact it was there before you exercised.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of those musculoskeletal ultrasounds too. I got to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And that's for all tendons: elbow tendon, knee, Achilles, shoulder.
Everything.
Yeah.
Boy. David, all right, listen, we're going to take one more short break.
Sure.
When we come back, I want to talk about that 40-something-year-old perimenopausal woman that just kind of hits that wall.
Right.
And they've been working out hard to drop those few pounds, but now they're inflamed and they're in that vicious cycle and they can't get away from it.
They can get away from it, and they will.
Great, so stay tuned and we're going to find out why. Dr. David Seaman, I'm Dr. DeFabio. We'll be right back. One thing you can do to help yourself be healthier, that's to get enough sleep. Research has shown that sleeping decreases inflammation. It increases weight loss. It helps reset your HPA axis, which balances your adrenal glands, which is energy levels. So in other words, sleeping is beneficial for you. It's necessary for your body to heal, recuperate, and recover, and to be healthy. You got to get 6 to 8 hours a day. If you're not sleeping right, well, give me a call. I can help you with that. But the bottom line is you got to get sleep if you really want to be healthy. That's one simple thing you can do to improve your health. You know, it's been a lot of great information so far. We talked about the inflammation markers that are driving inflammation, pain, and weight gain. Then they get into the fat cells, and then they drive more weight gain. Then it can get into your brain. It can affect your body's ability to stop eating, let alone it impacts your genetic expression for disease. David, a lot of great information. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
You know, it's always
scary.
fun.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is scary.
Yeah.
You know, one short question, then I want to ask about that perimenopausal woman and their challenges. Have there been any changes in the amount of omega-3 healthy fatty acids in the fish farm-raised versus wild caught? We know the bronzini isn't very good. Right. We know the catfish farm-raised is not very good. We know tilapia is not very good. Those are inflammatory fish.
Because they're farm-raised, right?
Yeah, what about like farm-raised salmon or other farm-raised? Do we know?
That depends where it's farmed. The one study that was published was actually in the Journal of the American Dietetic Association in 2008. And it turns out that your farm-raised salmon, because they're raised in the ocean, kind of netted in areas.
Yeah, exactly.
Netted in areas. And so they eat some,
plankton
normal,
stuff,
they eat normal fish food there. So their omega-6, omega-3 ratios appear to be okay.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get that out of the way. So let's get down to a large subset of the population. The 40, 50-something-year-old woman, perimenopausal, been working out the gym to drop those few pounds that they've gained because now their hormones aren't working, and now they're getting banged up, they're getting hurt. They don't want to stop working out because they don't want to gain the weight because they've already gained the weight because their hormones levels have changed and it's thrown everything out of whack.
Yeah.
What about them? How do they fit into this whole situation, and where does weight management stand for that person?
Well, if you look at the sugar and flour problem that all people have, and we should look at this, accurately, pretty much the average person out there in America, which means the average person listening, particularly if they're overweight, about 40% of their calories comes from sugar and flour. So sugar, flour, and then omega-6 fatty acids and trans fatty acids. That's another 20% of calories.
Corn oil, safflower seed oil, peanut oil,
deep fried oil, soybean oil, all this stuff. So that's
okay.
Sugar, flour, the refined oils. That's 60% of calories for the average person out there.
Right there.
It's a lot of calories. So when you eat that type of diet, you gain the weight we talked about before, and those calorie sources, they lead to those hormonal changes. It's not just because
wait a minute. Those calorie sources are driving the hormonal response.
The inflammatory foods create low-grade inflammation, and they disrupt normal hormone metabolism. For example, so we're talking about the gals, but let's talk about the guys for a little while. Like, what's wrong with the guy who's 40 years of age and his wife's trying to get in shape, and so is he? What's he suffering from? Now, when we were kids, there was never a golf tournament called the Cialis Western Open, was there? Was there?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Where did all this come from?
Right, so where did all this come from? Well, when we were growing up, there were lots more skinny people. When at my baseball games when I was young in New Jersey, some parents were overweight, but most of them were normal size.
Fit, yeah.
Right, we're quasi-fit, but they weren't overweight. So as men gain weight and as their bellies grow, and they get metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome screws up male and female hormone metabolism.
Bingo.
What happens to males is they can actually end up with hypogonadism from metabolic syndrome.
So you're just not kicking out enough testosterone.
Well, yeah, you're losing your testosterone, so they get low T. And the answer to low T is not getting T put in.
Yeah.
The answer is to get rid of the flame.
Got it.
So it turns out that women go through a similar but a female version of that hormonal change. It's not just they get older, their hormones change, and it's not an excuse. The problem is many years of eating inflammatory foods. So they got to get over the inflammatory food scenario. They've got to eat more vegetation, get below 100 grams of carbohydrate per day.
And do it.
Just do it.
And stop taking crack, right? Is that right?
Well, the dietary crack. Yeah, we didn't talk about dietary cracks. We should tell them what that means. So dietary crack, if you look at regular crack on TV, it's white powder.
Yeah.
Well, that's what sugar is, the white powder.
Yeah.
And people want sugar.
Exactly.
And the crackheads want actual crack. And the dietary crackheads, they want their crack.
White sugar, white flour.
White flour, white sugar is dietary crack. It actually turns on addiction pathways in the brain that are identical to crack. Now, it's not as addictive, but you get a pleasure experience. But
Twinkie defense.
Yeah, but you don't go through
violence.
You don't go through the withdrawal scenario, but you do. Think about after you're finishing a dessert. The last time you had one. Everyone, when they're kind of getting close to that last bite, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Because the last bite, and now it's gone. and you feel like something's missing. That is the...
It's all because we had birthday cake. That's my mother's fault.
That's actually, well, yeah.
She should have given me a birthday chicken.
And no parent should be doing that, but no one really knows that these foods actually behave like that. So once a child gets a taste of sugar and flour, it's in there because it turns on those pathways.
Got it.
And those pathways are good for us because in the wild, if you found honey in the wild, you would eat all the honey you could possibly find.
Got it.
And you eat all the fruit you could possibly eat because there's decent calories, the honey a lot of calories, and you'll be able to have calories so you can handle if you don't have food for a while, but now we have food everywhere. So that taste for the sweets is a real problem. So we all have that scenario going on. So there is no excuse. There is no like hormone fix because I'm older, whether you're a girl or a guy.
Unless
the problem
your
is
hormone system's really off.
It's the dietary crack that has created that scenario. You just got to just get off the stuff.
Quick question. Gluten-free doesn't mean anti-inflammatory, correct?
Gluten-free does not mean anti-inflammatory. How do you mean?
A lot of patients say, "Oh, I'm gluten-free.
Oh, yeah.
I'm anti-inflammatory already. I'm gluten-free."
Well,
but
rice,
they can be
flour,
a white
rice
crackhead.
flour, rice flour is just as cracky as wheat flour. It's just without the gluten.
Got it.
So I go to the health food store.
Potato starch flour, tapioca flour, all that
Blood
stuff
sugar
is still a problem.
Yeah. See, that is, and a lot of people. Yeah, they think that they're being gluten-free and they're being good because they don't have gluten.
Yeah.
They still have all the other problems with the other grains and the high glycemic issues. Yeah.
Dave, give me like 3 tips people can use to help manage their weight at home, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Overeat vegetation. Embrace lean meats. So lean meat, fish, chicken, vegetation, berries. So if you overeat those foods and fill up, and here's the biggest tip of all. If you feel full here, but your brain says that you're hungry, you have to trust how your gut feels. And it can take a week, 2 weeks, or a month for that person who feels hungry after they're full, for that to turn off. And they just gotta hold out. And if they can hold out, then they'll feel full and they will actually not be hungry.
Excellent. David, thank you very much. Great show. I'm glad everybody tuned in. Those were your top tips to lose weight, manage your weight healthfully, and decrease inflammation. I'm Dr. Donald DeFabio. Thanks for tuning in.